The existing starter ships of Star Citizen, at least for the most part, pitch their offer at being amongst the cheapest ships available and, as the name suggests, tailored to providing that initial ship experience for starting the game. The new Syulen from Gatac flips both concepts on their head, tilts them around 90 degrees, and invites you to consider starter ships in an entirely different way. So how does that alien concept stack up in-game? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answer to that question by reviewing the currently flyable Gatac Syulen, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a starter ship. If you've seen other reviews on this channel, you probably know what to expect, with this video following the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider it so you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. And we'll start the tour for the Syulen by approaching from ground level. In this case, the cargo is loaded up, so each of these spindles outside holds 2 SCU. There is a button on the outside which deploys a small fuel port. Sometimes the buttons can be a bit finicky to get access to, which is a bit of a pain from time to time. Getting aboard the Syulen is via an airlock on the bottom layer. This is a strange form factor for a ship because it's both small but also tall. The airlock door deploys these hover stairs which have a cool animation as they deploy and retract. The Syulen is split across 3 levels, and when you get aboard the ship you enter into this first level on the ground floor. Here you'll find some cupboards with component access, storage for a spacesuit, a weapons rack, which is a little buggy in-game at the moment, and additional component storage. Then there's the elevator, which will take you to one of the 3 floors aboard. We'll move up to the middle floor, which is the cabin section. As you can see, because the Syulen is tall but small, these rooms do feel quite compact, but it still has that small ship feel to it. There's a button which gives access to the ship's storage, and a bed with some nice rock motifs surrounding it. From within the bed, players can access the lighting controls. Hopping back out of the bed to this habitation area, there's a button which deploys a small bench, as well as a bathroom for crew use. We'll call this a sink, as well as a small toilet that can deploy from within the wall. This layer also has some nice windows to the outside. Moving up to the top level of the Syulen, you get to the cockpit. Within the walls there's some more component access, as well as lighting controls, and of course the famed cockpit chair. This deploys via gravity to take you up into the top/front of the Syulen. The Syulen comes armed with 3 size 3 hardpoints, by default armed with 3 fixed Panther repeaters, which is pretty respectable for a starter ship and comparable to some of the dedicated fighters. The capacitors unload quickly, but also charge up fairly quickly. That firepower is further augmented by the inclusion of 12 size 2 missiles, although the launchers can't be swapped out. Defensively, the Syulen carries 2 size 1 shield generators, which is pretty much the standard for ships at this size point. Altogether, especially combined with the maneuverability of the Syulen, that makes this a fairly good ship at fighting PvE targets, especially considering it's not a dedicated fighter and still has some utility space at the back. Clearly, longer engagements can become a bit rougher, with the Syulen unable to take sustained fire for a long time, but it's quick enough that a skilled pilot may be able to evade fire. For a starter ship, the overall combat performance is respectable. Visibility in the Syulen is hard to describe, but ultimately good. Because the pilot position is right at the top of the ship, which is sometimes the front, it's usually the case that the pilot is looking where they're flying, but in those circumstances where glancing around is needed, there is a surprisingly strong and relatively unencumbered field of view. The Syulen offers an SCM speed of 200 meters per second, rising to a top speed of 1,200 meters per second. The SCM speed limiter seems to have been set more for the weak, fleshy human pilot rather than the capability of the ship, which seems happy to press beyond that and remain pretty maneuverable. The Syulen feels incredibly fast for a starter ship, and with a quick roll or turn and a judicious application of boost, is able to quickly change direction. In fact, the ship is so fast that sometimes pilots need to be aware of the limits of their character to avoid blackouts or redouts. Landing can be a bit more of a challenge, however, less so for an experienced pilot who understands the mechanics of the ship, but basically, once you switch the landing gear, the front becomes the top, and so you need to land backwards, which in many landing pads is at 90 degrees. That's not a very good explanation, and that's intentional because getting your head around how the Syulen lands can take a hot minute. Once you understand it, it's mostly fine, other than if you're picking the ship out of the garage for a first time in a while. But it's important to point out that the Syulen lands very differently to other ships, because it's a key consideration given that it's badged up as a starter ship. The stock quantum drive is pretty slow, especially since the Syulen overall has good quantum fuel stores, so a decent range in Stanton, even with an upgrade, is possible. As a starter ship, the Syulen is cheap to run, with rearm, repair and refuel costs in the hundreds to low thousands of Alpha UEC. In terms of making that money back, there is modest cargo storage available, with 3 external storage locations, each capable of carrying 2 single SCU crates, for a total of 6 SCU. That's not really enough to make any meaningful sums through trading, but is fine for maybe picking up cargo loot that you find out and about in the verse. The problem is that they don't really work for storing delivery boxes, at least not with the current implementation. So for delivery missions, you find yourself trying to store the boxes on the ship internals, which is possible but not ideal. Thankfully, the Syulen does pretty well with combat contracts, especially against NPC opponents, even nudging towards higher difficulty levels, so that's probably the more natural money-making gameplay loop for this ship. In terms of loadout changes, swapping out the quantum drive is a real must, perhaps to a VK00 or similar. Combat pilots might want to swap out weapons, shields, power or cooler for optimal performance, although the stock setup pretty much works fine. There are lots of reasons to like the Syulen. The unique looks are fantastic, including an alien-style quantum travel effect. For a ship that stands out from the crowd, the Syulen is a pretty good candidate. The ship is also tilted slightly towards combat while still retaining the internal spaces of a starter ship, including the bed for logging out. But it's not perhaps as new player friendly as other options. That's not to say it's impossible to learn to fly in a syu'len, but given that Star Citizen is already a game with a steep learning curve, the weird flight model of the syu'len compared to other ships makes that a little steeper. And that's not accounting for a bug which randomly kills the player sometimes when traversing the internal elevator. As a starter ship, the syu'len seems more suitable for an existing player looking to adjust their starting experience rather than the ideal choice for a new player. And that's especially true because of the competition. The syu'len starter pack is $85, which comes with 6 SCU of cargo storage and no space for vehicles. The Nomad comes in at $95, just $10 more, with 4 times the storage at 24 SCU and space for a rock mining rover. The Cutter comes in at $60, a hefty discount, with 4 SCU of cargo space and a janky way to load a rock mining rover out the back. So in terms of a starter ship that can do things, for many players there will be better options out there. Backers choosing the syu'len are choosing to pay for something more difficult to fly that doesn't give as strong a platform to learn different elements of the game as other starter ships. But for such players that might be okay. The syu'len is one of the cheapest alien ships. It's a truly different experience from flying many of the other ships in-game, and certainly makes a statement as you fly around, so it's easy to see the temptation. It'll be interesting to see the in-game price for the ship once it becomes available for Alpha UEC. But what do you think about the syu'len? There seems to be a lot of love for this ship, so I'll be interested to read your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.